Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've never really done this before, but it's basically a games I bought recently series. I didn't come up with this concept or anything, but I thought it would just be interesting to kind of show off some of the games I bought recently and kind of give some first impressions of the ones that I have played. And I'll kind of get into some of the ones I've played and some of the ones I just haven't played, just because I've actually gotten quite a few games recently over the last probably month or so. So anyways, just wanted to kind of show everything off. Just kind of an informal video, a little bit different than what I've done in the past of like gameplay, walkthroughs, and various other kind of videos in the past. Just wanted to try something a little bit different. So if you guys like this kind of video, please let me know, and I'll do my best to try to keep them up. So first up is a game that I have really enjoyed, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn. I have not beat the game yet, but I've gotten probably about 10, 11 hours or so into it. As far as the story, I haven't gotten too far into the story yet. Try to get a better look at that for you guys. A lot of you guys might already know about this game, but as far as the story, I haven't gotten too far into it. I'd say I've gotten a couple chapters into it. I haven't played it in a couple of weeks, but I have gotten a little bit into the story, and from what I've gotten into, I really love it, and I really love the game. It's such a unique concept, a unique open world game that I honestly didn't know too much about, and when I saw it at GameStop for $7, I heard it was a great game, and I figured for $7 I might as well get it. And yeah, I'm really glad I got it. I have to get into it. I'm really looking forward to the second game that's coming out in, I think, February of 2022. So I'm really looking forward to that. Next game I got is Fallout 4. Now, I have had this previously on the Xbox One, and I did beat it on the Xbox One. I loved it. And for whatever reason, I sold my Xbox and, never really got back into the Fallout series. But I did see Fallout 4 for like $6 or $7 as well on at GameStop. So I figured, hey, why not get it? Give that a shot again. But I dumped hours of my life into that game, and I really loved just the open world. I was a huge fan of the Fallout series since Fallout 3. And Fallout 3, I spent so much of my time into that game. And so when Fallout 4 came out, newer graphics, similar environment of it being a post-apocalyptic world, getting out, basically getting out of the vault into the world, and just that first look of the world when you get out from the vault is just incredible. So I really love Fallout 4, and looking forward to getting back into it. Since I bought it recently, I have not played it, just because there's a lot of other games that I'm in the middle of playing. But I did beat it in the past, and I know it's such a great game. I just, like I said, I just haven't actually played it since I bought it, but I did beat it in the past. Next game I got is Trine: The Ultimate Collection. Now, I saw this recommended on a Metal Jesus Rocks video, and it's a pretty cool platformer where basically you're playing as three characters: a wizard, a kind of fighter, melee fighter, and then an archer. I haven't played the game yet, but I've seen, gameplay videos of it and everything like that to kind of have a decent idea that basically it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer where you're basically, you basically kind of run into obstacles where only the wizard can kind of figure it out, or only the kind of the warrior, the melee fighter, can, with enough brute strength, can kind of get you past an obstacle, or you might have to switch to the archer to get something that's far away. So it's a really cool concept, and it has 4 games in one, and I got this for $10. So I'm really excited. There's kind of a cult following with Trine, so I figured I'd give it a shot, and one of these days I will definitely get into it. I was pretty excited because I think it came with, it came with a map as well. And yeah, it seems like a really interesting game, and platformers are one of my favorite types of games as well. So really looking forward to playing that. Next up is kind of an infamous game. That is Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I was really looking forward to this game in 2020 when it was originally set to come out, and I had not heard of the game until about March of last year. And then, once I looked into it, and eventually, when the trailer came out and everything, I got so pumped for the game. Then the bugs and the crashes and the glitches and just the completely broken product that it was released to the market, and that completely discouraged me from getting the game. I almost did a pre-order as well, and I'm so glad that I did not pre-order this game. From what I hear, it's a pretty... it's much better than what it was. It's still not quite there, but from what I've heard, it's at least playable. And so, which is kind of a sad, way to describe a game. It's at least playable at this point. But I am, looking forward to playing that game. I have not played it yet. I got it from GameStop for $10 sealed. It is still sealed, brand new. And I am definitely looking forward to it. The gameplay that I've seen, when there are no glitches and bugs, is really promising. Sounds really good. So looking forward to playing the game and, getting into the story there and all that entails. Next up is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Now this I know has a massive following of people that just absolutely love this game. And funny enough, if you didn't know, The Witcher 3, the people that made The Witcher 3 are also the same people that made Cyberpunk. So how they came out with this awesome game and then this kind of broken product came out completely amazes me. But something that I've heard in a video in the past with Cyberpunk is that, actually I think it was on XPlay, I think that Frosk on XPlay had kind of explained her experience with it. For some people, they've had a relatively pleasant experience, and for whatever reason, maybe the developers, when they were testing the game and running through their trials and everything, they were playing on sort of, whatever kind of version of the game that was a very pleasant experience. That might have been the version that they were testing, and so they probably had no idea that this came out. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy of it was rushed to come out, and I don't know about all that kind of stuff, but just kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt. I would imagine just for their own reputation and their own personal livelihoods of wanting people to buy their games in the future and not wanting to run their name down the toilet, I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that, maybe they were playing a version of the game that was really good for the most part, and, any kind of bugs that they ran into, if they didn't have time to fix it before launch, then they plan to kind of get those last bugs ironed out, post-launch, basically, with some updates. That's what I'm thinking has happened, and so they might have just been completely shocked when the game came out, and almost everybody, had a completely terrible experience. Now, with The Witcher 3, getting back to this game, I have spent a good couple of hours into it, probably about 10, 15 hours or so into the game. Very, very interesting RPG. Now, this hasn't gripped me quite as much as games like Fallout and Skyrim. Those are kind of more my style, but I can definitely see myself, once I get deeper into the story, I can definitely see myself, wanting to spend a lot of hours into this game, because there's a lot of really interesting things to do, and the combat is great, very fluid combat, in my opinion. I know some people aren't fans of it, but combat's really good, and I do like the spells and the kind of the different weapons that you can get. Really interesting game, and I should probably give it some more playtime, but I've just had so many other games that have kind of taken my my attention to where, I do plan on getting back to The Witcher, but I've just got a whole lot of other games that I want to get through that I'm just so much more excited to play. So, but I know that for some people, this is like the perfect game, the game to end all games. So anyways, that's kind of my initial thoughts on The Witcher 3, and yeah, I would love to get back into this sometime soon. Up next is a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I have not played this game. It's kind of going to be a theme throughout this video, but I have not played this game. yet, but I do know that it is a phenomenal game, probably one of the best Star Wars games. And for me, my history with Star Wars, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt right now, actually. I didn't even plan that. But I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I played the Knights of the Old Republic games, 1 and 2, on the original Xbox. I absolutely loved those games. Those are probably my most played RPGs. To say that I spent, 50 hours, which for some people isn't even a lot compared to people that are like heavy into Skyrim and stuff like that. To say that I spent at least 50 hours would be a massive understatement. I probably spent maybe 75, 100 hours in each Knights of the Old Republic games. So I'm very into the Star Wars games that are, very good story, really draw you into it. Now, Jedi Fallen Order, to my knowledge, it's not an RPG in the similar fashion as Knights of the Old Republic, but from what I gather, it's a very story-driven, single-player type of game, and lately those have been my absolute favorite kind of games to play. I love the sort of singular storytelling narrative that's in single-player games, like from what I hear in Jedi Fallen Order and like the Uncharted games. So yeah, I'm very, very, very much looking forward to playing Jedi Fallen Order when I do get around to it. Up next is the newest game that I've started playing. Actually, this game and another game is kind of the two games that that I just recently started playing in the last week, that have really gripped my attention, and that is Final Fantasy 15. Apparently, this is a really controversial pick. I don't know why. This game is actually really interesting. I've probably spent, not a crazy amount of time, maybe 15 or so hours into the game, and it's a pretty interesting story. Without any spoilers, basically it's a game about a journey, and I kind of don't want to give too much information away, but it's basically a game about a journey of 4 good friends that are basically journeying back to their homeland, so that the main character, Noctis, can basically fulfill his destiny as being the king of the land, basically. And if that doesn't sound interesting, I was in that same boat. On paper, it doesn't sound that interesting, but actually playing the game, the 4 people are not as annoying as you might think. If you see photos of the 4 characters, there's Noctis there. If you see photos of the 4 characters, you might kind of have your assumptions about, one of the big characters, basically the kind of the bodyguard character. You might have your assumptions about him, or maybe the assumptions about one of the skinnier character with blonde hair, who just kind of jokes around in the trailers and stuff like that, and just kind of seems kind of annoying. You might have your assumptions on them, but actually playing the game and hearing the banter between them and hearing the conversations when you're driving the car and traveling to places, and when they actually help you out in battles, which brings me to the combat system. I really like the combat system, but just kind of being engrossed in the game. The characters really take me by surprise, and I'm really looking forward to getting deeper into the story. Just started it in this last week, and it's been a blast. I really do like Final Fantasy 15, so looking forward to playing more of that. And the combat system, like I was mentioning earlier, is actually really interesting. It's not a turn-based action system. It's basically a kind of a hack and slash kind of combat system, to where you're basically really pressing, 1, maybe 2 buttons the whole time, but really just the attack button. There's just really just one attack button. It's actually, a little bit more complex in the sense that you can hold it down and that'll chain your attacks, or you can warp to different areas, and you can lock onto different enemies and different areas to warp to and things like that. So to me, it's a very interesting game. It's one of the better Final Fantasy games that I've played. Final Fantasy 13 was the first Final Fantasy game that I've played, and I've since played some other ones. But Final Fantasy 13 was my first one, and I liked that as well, and apparently that's a controversial one as well, but supposedly the first Final Fantasy game that you play is kind of gives you a pretty good first impression of the whole series, and you kind of have a soft spot for the first one that you played. So in my case, that was Final Fantasy 13, and Final Fantasy 15 is probably the second Final Fantasy that I've given any extra amount of time. Now, I have not played Final Fantasy 7, and I know many people are huge fans of 7, but yeah, like I said, I just haven't gotten to Final Fantasy 7 yet. I am looking forward to the remake, of picking that up, one of these days here. I have heard the remake is very good, so I am looking forward to that and all that entails. Up next is a really good game that I've actually spent quite a bit of hours playing that kind of surprised me, and that is Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, I actually thought when I first got it that it was Dragon Ball FighterZ, just because the Dragon Ball Z fan in me wanted to kind of pronounce it that way. But now this is an amazing, amazing, amazing fighting game. Very easy to get into, and there's a lot to learn with the combos and things like that, but it's not an intimidating fighter at all. I'm not a huge fighter fan. I do love Street Fighter 4. That's probably my favorite Street Fighter. But apart from Street Fighter and maybe the Marvel vs. Capcom games, I am not a big fighter person at all. So when Dragon Ball FighterZ came out, or there we go, saying it like that, Dragon Ball FighterZ came out, I wasn't that interested in it, especially the story mode seemed kind of weird, but now I've kind of grown to appreciate the story mode, especially since it has its own original story and it's not just a retelling of the entire anime. But yeah, it's a very, very good game, and I haven't played it in a little while, but I spent quite a few hours surprisingly into this game, and just when you land the combos and when you do the chain attacks with your with your kind of your teammates, it's a 3v3 fighting game. When you land those combos and you chain them together with your two other members, it's something else, I'm telling you. Up next is probably my favorite game that I have played recently, and that is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I absolutely adore this game. Just the whole feel of Miles Morales, and just the, I was kind of hesitant that they were just going to kind of make it feel like the original Spider-Man. He's Peter Parker. He's the everyday kind of, not to get racial here or anything, but he's kind of the everyday white guy kind of thing. I was really afraid that they were going to go that route and just kind of make him seem too unrelatable, and that, he's great, but, here's why Miles Morales is great, because he's relatable to you, and, he's a person of color and everything like that. And not that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but when it feels forced, that's when it just kind of loses me. Thankfully, they did not do that at all with Miles Morales, and I'm so glad that they did him really, that they did him justice in this, and just the feeling of the combat and the feeling of the swinging. And for me, what really got me was just the heart behind it. This is a very heartfelt game for Miles Morales, and you just feel the love between him and his mother. You feel the appreciation and just the banter between him and Genki, his friend, who's kind of the tech support. And you do feel something towards the main protagonist of the game. Without spoiling anything, although it is kind of predictable, I will say that, and that in itself can kind of be a spoiler. But yeah, there were some things that were kind of predictable, but thankfully some of the predictability they kind of address right in the beginning of the game. So that way they don't kind of drag you out just to do a big reveal at the end. They kind of let you know things a little bit early on in the game. But yeah, Spider-Man Miles Morales is an amazing game, and I will be doing the New Game Plus on probably one of the harder difficulties. I think I did it on normal just to kind of do the story mode the first time. But yeah, I will be doing the New Game Plus to kind of get some of those other suits and things like that. So yeah, really great game. Really glad that I got that. Up next is Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, I mean, what can I say about this game? Amazing game. Absolutely phenomenal game. The story is amazing. I'm kind of at a loss for words. I mean, this is just a phenomenal game. The combat is out of this world, and the visuals are probably the best visuals as far as like landscapes and things like that. Probably the best visuals. The face character models, when you get a little up close on things, you know, not the best, but probably one of the best visually looking games overall on the PlayStation 4. Now, granted, this was probably the last major release on the PlayStation 4, you know, prior to the PS5 coming out, but yeah, just phenomenal game, and if you have not played this, I absolutely recommend getting it. Next is Resident Evil 3. This is an awesome remake. I have not played it myself yet, but I have seen, you know, gameplay of it and everything like that. I actually did watch a whole walkthrough of it on YouTube. So I really just kind of picked this game up because I was such a big fan of Resident Evil 2, which is by far my favorite Resident Evil game. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing this. I just got it recently for like $10, I don't know. So yeah, and I have heard that Resident Evil 2 is the better of the, you know, 2 versus 3. But yeah, I am looking forward to getting into Resident Evil 3 and getting back to Raccoon City. Up next is another Resident Evil game, and that is Resident Evil Village. I am really looking forward to playing this game. I have heard that it's not a terribly scary game, even though the werewolves kind of, in the trailers and everything, looks terrifying. So I don't know how it's not that scary of a game. But I am looking forward into, you know, getting into this game. I haven't played it yet, as I just picked it up about a week ago. But I've heard that this is a really good game. If you were a fan of Resident Evil 7, which I have on the PS4 as well, then you're really going to like Resident Evil 8. And to me, this is very reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, which is probably my second favorite Resident Evil game. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And kind of my first thoughts of this game, without even playing it, is I really want it to give me the Resident Evil 4 feels with, you know, newer, obviously up-to-date graphics with it being the newest one, and kind of a similar feel of Resident Evil 2 in some way. I don't know how it can do that with Resident Evil 2 being third person and this being first person, but if this game is what I hope it is, then this will take the cake as my favorite Resident Evil game. If it just kind of has those story elements that I'm kind of looking for, and kind of the atmospheric feel of Resident Evil 4, then this might be my favorite game. Now, that's just kind of my hopes for it before I get into the game, so we'll see if that's actually how it pans out, but I'm really looking forward to playing this game. And lastly is Ratchet and Clank on the PS4, the 2016 game, I believe it was. Now, apparently there was a Ratchet and Clank movie that came out in 2016. You know, basically this is a game based off of a movie, which I think that's how the game based on the movie based on the game. So this game was based on the movie that came out that year, and that movie was based on the original Ratchet and Clank game, you know, back in the early 2000s or so when the first game actually came out. And so I'm looking forward to playing that game. I've actually never played a Ratchet and Clank game. Actually, I take that back. I've played demos of them, you know, in the old, you know, back in the old days, the demo discs that had, you know, 5, 8 games that you can demo on there. And I wasn't a big fan of it. But I've heard that this kind of reboot, remake kind of game is just absolutely adored by everybody that plays it. And for some people, it was their game of the year. It's their favorite game of all time. So, and Insomniac made it, which Insomniac with the Spider-Man games and the Infamous games, they've kind of built up enough reputation in my gamer heart to want to give them a chance on this game. And it sounds kind of weird since Ratchet & Clank is a very popular game that many people like, but for me, I've just never been into it, so I'm happy to kind of give this game a shot and you know, get into the Ratchet & Clank games. But anyways, guys, that is basically everything that I have gotten probably in the last month or so, which is kind of scary, seeing the whole stack here and realizing that I spent some money on some games in the last month. But yeah, these games that I have played, and you know, whether in the past or recently, they just mean the world to me, and really looking forward to playing some of the other games that I haven't touched yet. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care. Peace.